Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Eric. Today I wanted to continue talking about this collection of short stories by Richard Matheson, which was put out by Penguin, I believe in 2017. It's been a while since I've done a video on this, but I did want to keep this going. I just go through each short story, talk about it a little bit, maybe get into some of the influence the short story has had, or just any other elements of note in the story. So I have a couple I'm going to talk about today. So the first story is called Blood Son, and this is one of the stronger ones in the collection. I like this one. Whenever you have a story about a child that is deeply troubled, and it seems like lately I've seen a couple. Well, there's always been movies about this, but movies recently about usually young boy who just something is really off with this kid. Yeah, a lot of those stories today, and this is a story like that where two parents have a child and they can't figure him out. He's obsessive about things. He seems antisocial, and just a lot of issues around. They take him to see the movie Dracula, the Bela Lugosi movie, and he kind of flips out and becomes obsessed with Dracula. And then he goes and gets the book, the Bram Stoker book. And I know vampires appear in other stories in this collection too. But anyway, he reads on the Bram Stoker book and gets completely obsessed with that. And there's a scene where I believe his parents throw out the book, and the kid is so obsessed that he digs the book out of the dumpster, and he's still reading the book even though it's covered with all this disgusting garbage. So that's a striking image from the story. This one, it's hard not to reveal the twist, but he also gets obsessed with bats too, of course, which is part of the whole Dracula mythos. So yeah, and the story, you might know where the story's going the way I'm describing it, but I think and really the twist comes really in the last couple sentences of the story, so it's really handled well. So Blood Son works well with its themes of a kid who just either has serious mental issues, or there's something else going on. So it's a good story. I guess there's some anxiety about parenting. I guess is which we get a lot with Matheson stories. Children often play a ambivalent role. But anyway, that's Blood Son. Speaking of that, the next story is called Where There's a Will. Now, this was a later story that Matheson rewrote with his son, Richard Christian Matheson. And this is the story takes a very old premise of fear of being buried alive, where the story literally starts out where the main character discovers that he is inside a coffin 6 feet below the ground. Very, one of the most terrifying scenarios one could imagine. And that's the story. And as far as where they take it and what they do with it, it's fine. I wouldn't say it's the best story in the collection, but it's memorable for their reworking of the premise. Okay, the next story is called Dying Room Only. And this is more of a thriller, kind of turns into a crime thriller type of story. It's about a husband and wife who are traveling, and they stop at this roadside diner type place. And the husband leaves to go to the restroom, and he doesn't come back. He disappears. Okay, so his wife is left to try to figure out what's happened to her husband. Gene, Bob is the husband's name. Gene is the name of the wife, and a young couple. And there's these kind of sordid figures in this diner, regulars who quite common with these stories. They were kind of shady, very distrustful of outsiders. And the story begins an investigation where Jean must figure out what happened to her husband. And really, the second half, you might be wondering, you read this, is there something supernatural happening here? But it does become more of I guess, like a crime fiction type story is what happens. So yeah, this is a good story. I mean, I didn't know this was made into a TV movie in the 1970s, and which there are some clips of it on YouTube, and but I've not watched the entire movie. It looks like a lot of elements were added to the TV movie, but you can also see, if you're familiar with The Vanishing, which was a thriller, a European thriller that came out in the 80s, which kind of reverses it. It's about a couple stop at a rest area, and I believe the girlfriend goes missing, and the rest of the story is the husband's search for her. And there's also an American version of that film as well. So it's kind of almost like a Hitchcockian type of scenario that we have. So yeah. So that's Dying Room Only. Interesting story. The next one's really short, called Counterfeit Bills. This is only a couple pages, and this is about a man who is tired of doing boring routine tasks every day. So he decides, well, I'll just basically create a clone of myself so the clone can do all the boring stuff and I can go out and have fun. So this is kind of a comedy story, and it kind of becomes where the clone eventually becomes bored and has to create, and this is kind of becomes a dark comedy. So like I said, a very short story. Interesting premise, though, that the film from the 90s called Multiplicity, with Michael Keaton is in that one. I want to say Andy McDowell is also in that, where it's a comedy where cloning gets involved. But you can see this short story is kind of similar to that film, Multiplicity. Okay, and then the last one I'll mention is called Death Ship. This was, I guess, a sci-fi type story. And it does have a chilling premise where 3 astronauts are out. They have to go to this planet and explore it, and they come upon this decrepit ship, and they discover bodies inside the ship. Not only are they bodies, but they also are themselves. Okay, so imagine that messed up situation where you would encounter your own corpse, okay, and how that could possibly work. So the story becomes among the 3 men on this crew as they debate what to make of this, what they've discovered, and there's a lot of arguing as far as what they should do. So I think this has been a trope that's been used a lot, and not to spoil the story, but we've heard of being trapped in a time loop type stories, which like I said, we've had all the time. We get those a lot these days. So you might know what twist is coming in this story, but this is one of the earlier instances of that, I think, where they start talking about relativity and time loops and all that type of thing. So it's a really fantastical situation these explorers run into, and the story's handled well. Now, this was made into a Twilight Zone episode that Matheson wrote. It was on the 4th season of the Twilight Zone, this is like one of the hour episodes. For that one season, they went to 50-minute episodes, and in that story, Matheson added some things to it, which I don't think helped the story too much. Basically, he added a lot about the backstory of the characters in the story. I don't know if that was to pad out the hour of television, yeah, but there is a Twilight Zone. Matheson, of course, wrote many memorable Twilight Zone episodes, and you can watch this one. Jack Klugman is in that one, so memorable actor from that era. So that's Death Ship. Like I said, you know, kind of a space. You'd almost call it a horror story in space, almost. So, yeah. So I guess that would conclude this collection of stories, and I do like how this collection goes, where we are moving between genres a lot. We have science fiction, we have some horror. I think Blood Sun is the strongest story in here that I talked about, and we have some crime fiction. So I like, yeah, that kind of the versatility and blending of genres that are happening in this collection. So yeah, I think I'll end it there, and I'll probably do 2 or 3 more of these to talk about a few things about each of these stories in this collection. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.